Good morning, everyone. Thanks a bunch for making it today to this webinar. We're going to do some questions and answers with the Everest team. So hope you guys are having a great week. For those of you who have not used GoToWebinar before, just want to give a kind of a brief intro to the user interface, and then we'll go to introduction to myself and the team. But if you guys are looking at that user interface, you'll see that there's a questions section in there. Feel free to put any question you have. You can start even right now.
You guys.
So as a brief introduction, my name is Tyler Wiggins. I'm the product development manager here at Everest Solar. I work with the engineering team designing and manufacturing the parts that hopefully you guys are installing if you're an Everest customer. So Nick, you want to introduce yourself next?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for making time for us this morning. My name is Nich. I'm Western Regional Sales Manager here in California for Everest Solar Systems. And thanks for making time for us, like I said. I've been in the industry for approaching now 10 years. So all of it's been focused on racking and roof attachments. We have a really kind of interesting type of scene for you today, where we're going to go through some of the questions that get frequently asked and give you guys some of the answers to and how to find things on our website. So thanks for attending today, and go ahead and pass it on to Johan here, who's our marketing director.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
I had some computer trouble. My fault for being not on here right on the hour. But yes, my name is Johan. I'm the director of product marketing for Everest. Been in the industry about 15 years. I've worked with Nich for like 10 years together and other manufacturer, and have a lot of experience with product development and technical training and product marketing. And I work pretty closely with Tyler and the engineering team on products. And this is kind of a fun one that I'm really excited to do, because we just open it up to questions. I don't know if you went over logistics already, Tyler, but we can't necessarily hear you right now, but type in your questions. We'll get to all of them. And if I know it's kind of a smaller, tight-knit group, which is nice. It's always like background noise and crazy things going on. Everyone's working from home and trying to figure out the homeschooling thing. We totally get that. But so we'll go through a series of questions that we get commonly and just have an open discussion. So if you have questions, type them into the box there. Oh, there we go. Now I am. Okay, so you guys can see the website now?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So since you guys are new to the Everest world, and even if you're not, this is our website's getting updated all the time. So you got things scrolling in here that are of interest. BaseCamp is our training center where you can get videos, downloads. We have tips from BaseCamp. We have all kinds of new stuff that when people say, hey, I have an issue with this, what's the best way to do this? We have some kind of tips and tricks. We have product videos. We're doing a lot of filming and webinars like this, so all of them are recorded on BaseCamp. You can get to everything by clicking this little 3 lines up here, and you'll get a little drop-down menu. And if you want to go to BaseCamp, as I mentioned, is the training hub. There's webinars, there's downloads, videos, tips from BaseCamp, training roadshows, which we're not doing as much right now because of the pandemic and whatnot. So, but then we also have products here. So if you're interested in using any of our systems, Crossrail is our rail, and it can be installed in regular residential dual rail. We have shared rail, which is a little bit more of an innovative way of doing things, and where you share the rail. And then we have the ground mount system. We have a tilt up system for flat roofs. And then we have the D-Dome railless, which is a ballasted system. So all these systems are here, and they use all the same components, mids and ends, and if you got to put, if you got to put optimizers or anything on the rail, they use the same hardware. And we have a pretty nice racking system where you can use the rail channels wire management. We also have wire management clips and things like that. So if you're interested in this system, like let's say Crossrail is our standard most popular system, you go into Crossrail and it'll bring up the product page for that system. And then if you scroll down, a lot of your questions might be right in here. If you want to go down to components or the downloads, the most popular thing that people will just go to straight is getting the assembly guide.
Turn off your camera because your audio is like really delayed.
Oh, okay, that's good. Good feedback. Okay. All right. Now we can only see Tyler's pretty face. Okay, so is that better?
I did the same too. I turned off my camera just so maybe it could help the audio a little bit better. So I've noticed that helps sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds much better now.
Okay. Okay, cool. So we're on the download page here. You guys can still see the website, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so assembly instructions is a good one to download. So you open that up and then you click on this little magnifying glass and that will pull up the full-on document that shows all you need to know for installing this racking system. You know, limitations on, spans and whatnot. You can get to the engineering, and there's engineering docs for ASCE 716 on that same download page. But this gives you just the basic nuts and bolts of what goes together, torque specs for all the hardware, all the components that are compatible, the part numbers. This is going to have everything.
This is actually really helpful, Johan, because that's a question that I know that we get very often is the actual part numbers. So this is something if anybody out there is having any kind of confusion on which part numbers go with the rail, this is Johan's driving you exactly through that spot right now.
Oops. Sorry, I was going to open up a different document here, but pull that in separately. I have another document here with questions that are good. I'll pull that separate. Okay, so yeah, if you go to the download page, there's also a great one here, and I'll leave it here, and then we can start getting into some of these specific questions. But this technical information page, you got an overview that will get into everything. But I know a lot of questions are like approved modules or code compliance. That's all in here. So if you go to overview, it gives you a shot at all of those and shows you what we're talking about here. So obviously some jurisdictions are moving to ASCE 716, some are still on 710. We have all that information in here and we'll get into those. Tyler's worked really hard at getting all those letters for our systems. So there's some more information on, what is this code? What does this all mean for roof zones, wind speeds? So Tyler did a really great webinar. There's even the link to the webinar there that gets into deep conversation on those codes and how it pertains to us. UL 2703, what does that all mean? How does that pertain to our systems? Things like that. And then BASE actually builds a lot of that into the report. When you build out a system in our design software tool, it will give you a lot of that information. So again, this is a really helpful page too. So you go to that drop down menu at the top left corner, go to technical information, it'll bring another sub menu, and you can go to all of these. So I know approved modules is one that comes up pretty often, and this is the most updated list of modules that are approved with our systems. So definitely check that out and let us know if there's anything you want to get into specifically. So So now I'll just get into some of these questions. So that was actually a top question. Where is the best place to find the most updated list of approved modules with Everest for UL listings or fire ratings? So Nick, I know you deal with that question a lot. Being on the outside sales team, you get your customers asking, "Where's the list? Where can I get that?" Would you say is this your go-to right here on this page?
This is my go-to on this page. So this has basically all of the modules that were listed with in alphabetical order. So if you go to L for LG, right, or Longi, this is where you'll find them and what listing they actually have with what series of module that actually is. So the real divide, though, is actually what product is listed with which module. So that's where I'll actually direct Johan to go to back to technical information, or sorry, back to our top menu.
Okay.
Go to products. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to do a standard Crossrail system. So click on Crossrail. And then down towards the bottom, if you want to find the UL listed modules for the Crossrail system, if you go to halfway down the page, you'll see the downloads. So all of the pages that we have on our website kind of all interact the same way. So you'll notice that everything has a main splash page, and then if you scroll halfway down, you'll see a documents and downloads area for the product. Right there where Johan just went, UL listings and other certifications. That's where you want to go if you want to find UL listed modules for the Crossrail system right there. So I hope that kind of gets everybody on the same page of where to find everything. We have what Johan showed us in the beginning is a bulk UL listing for all of them, alphabetized, and then we have product specific right here. So this is how you can actually find out of those modules if that particular module is listed with this racking line. So I hope that really addresses that and answers that question here. One of the other things that we get asked very often regarding our system is Class A fire ratings right here. So for that, that's actually in that same area, if I'm not mistaken, Tyler, right?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, so another good place to look, I mean, is in the, so right there, yes, you can find the certifications there. You can also find them on the assembly guide as well. Every assembly guide for each system in the first couple pages has those listings referenced there as well. So you have a couple different places you can find them, but most installers basically attach the assembly guide to their plan sets when they turn them in, and then it has all of the listings, listed on the first couple pages of the assembly guide. But if you need the actual listing from UL, that's exactly where you want to find it, right there where you just had.
Excellent, excellent. So yeah, that's been a question that I've been kind of ushering installers over to this portion of our site. And once they bookmark it and have it, then we always update these links. So I do, of course, you're going to need to download documents and attach them in your plan sets for printout and whatnot. But I do highly recommend just bookmarking some of the links to keep them in your browser history or a quick tab so you can know where to go. We will always update that link. So if that makes sense.
Cool. So maybe on that same vein, I'm going to go over to, I'm just looking through questions that we've had. One was, let's see, where was it? Torque values. So I know we get questions on what are the torque specs and what happens if you don't torque to spec. So we all know people are using impacts and not, necessarily pulling out their torque spec or torque wrench, but it really is essential that you get these done properly. So impact drills, so there's the torque spec there for in the assembly guide, as Tyler mentioned. The assembly guide's got pretty much everything, and there's a torque overview there for all the different clamps and whatnot. But I will say, if you're new or if you've been in solar a while, a lot of installers, if not all, use impact drills on mid clamps, on roof attachments, on everything. And one thing I will say about impacts is, yes, they're awesome for installing a lag screw into a rafter and securing your roof attachment, but that's specifically for going into wood, and they're literally hammering in. So we get a lot of questions on torque spec, or what's the best thing to use, or why I'm getting cross threading. That often has to do with installer error. It's usually using an impact drill that doesn't have a setting. Some impact drills are better than others, but using an impact drill that doesn't have a setting and is just way too much force and beating down. You got to think you're working with stainless steel and aluminum, and it can cross thread if you're using an impact, because it's literally hammering it down, which is great for going into wood, but not so great for when you're using metal parts. So these torque specs are not that high. You can almost get it to do it with your hand, but it is good to use a drill. But try to, if you have a torque wrench or don't have one, I would suggest getting one. And it doesn't mean you have to use it on every single clamp and everything, but at least get a feel and calibrate your gun so that you're not using too much force and over torquing. So if you under torque, you run the risk of things loosening up over time, things slipping out. If you over torque, you run the risk of two major things. One, binding and cross threading, as I mentioned, that can happen sometimes with any clamp. And then number two, which is the worst case scenario, you can shatter the glass, because in between those frames is the glass. And when you crank down way too hard, doesn't matter what clamp you're using, you can potentially break the glass. I mean, these module, the glass is very robust and it can take a beating. And we haven't had that happen very often, but sometimes people do hammer it in way too hard, and it could be cold or hot, and it could just be the right kind of climate to just bust the glass. So if you over torque it, you can run into that. And that's really important to know where that sweet spot is to torque it properly and calibrate your gun and your drills. So tools is a really important thing, making sure you're using the right tools. And if you're using impact drill, I mean, we get it. It's easier, it's faster, it feels good, but just check it, and make sure you're not over torquing that thing or under torquing to some degree. So
Johan,
I just wanted to make sure.
I think you have a
go
really
ahead.
good image of that in one of your presentations with the Yeti clamp. So it kind of shows the side of the clamp, but that's okay.
Of the over torquing? I can try
Not the
to
over torquing, but you have like a side, there's like a graphic we have that's the side view of the frame of the module. But
oh, right. Yes. I don't know if you could see my screen here. This is a presentation that I did recently that has a lot of roofing info, but it's also got some of that stuff you're talking about. So let me see if I can pull that up. I know exactly what you're talking about. This one right here. So here's a good image of here's a good image that shows what he's talking about. There's our standard end clamp and our hidden end clamp. And so the Yeti clamp is a hidden end clamp, which is nice because, I mean, you can see where it's grabbing the inside flange of the module, which if you over torque that, there's no harm done really. I mean, if you bend the metal, it's not the worst case scenario, but you're not breaking the glass. Where you see that little groove in the frame that we're seeing in red there, that's where the glass is gonna go. And if you have a clamp clamping down on that, it can secure it nicely, but you can potentially over torque that. So you just wanna make sure you're not slamming into that too hard and you're doing it right. So just keep that in mind. I know we had some questions. Let's see if you guys can type in your questions there too. We got a quiet bunch. I see a few questions, but I'm just going to go to our FAQs. Tyler, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about ASCE 716 and 710 and the difference on the rough difference. I know there's a lot of confusion on that. I know we have a great we have a great web page for that. Here is some of the basics. So if you don't know what ASCE CE 716 is, that is the newest code for building and construction, and it pertains to solar specifically with roof zones and wind speeds, and our products do comply with them as we build new products, and we're getting our existing products all built to match that as well. But Tyler, I don't know if you want to speak just the basics, if you want to give your elevator speech on the new code change.
Yeah, sure, I can talk about that. So one thing I wanted to say first before I get into that is we understand that often at these webinars we might have people who are calling in from places outside of the United States. So if you guys are calling in from somewhere else in North America or South America, please feel free to ask a question that pertains to your particular market. We'll do the best we can to answer it, but we have a team that's in Guadalajara, Mexico, who handles a lot of our jobs in the Caribbean, in South America, and in other Latin American countries. So if anyone's calling in from that area, please feel free to ask your question. We'll help answer those as well today. So just wanted to throw that out there. So regarding ASCE 7-16, for those in the US market, you might be familiar with this code. It's essentially going to replace ASCE 710, or if you're more familiar with the IBC, it's IBC 2015. So ASCE 716 is with IBC 2018. And if you're in California, CBC 2019. So when I'm talking about ASCE 716, I'm really talking about IBC 2018 and CBC 2019, which are the building codes associated with this particular code, which is used basically to determine what the wind loads are on these modules, based off the geographic location that the project is in. So a lot of fancy words for saying basically a lot of people significantly smarter than myself got together and they did some wind tunnel testing, and they looked at a lot of different factors, and they basically said, the way that we're looking at these wind loads on panels is not, really as accurate as it could be. So they came out with this code, ASCE 716, that looks at things a lot closer, looks at things like exposed modules versus interior modules, or modules that are kind of protected from the outside of the array, and takes that into consideration when determining what the max allowable spans are on these rails. So if you're an installer or a designer, the only thing that is really important to you with this is that if the jurisdiction you're installing in is requiring it to be code compliant with IBC 2018, CBC 2019, and or ASCE 7-16, we do have code compliant engineering letters for that. They're located on our website in the download section for the particular product that you want to use. So if that's Crossrail, it'll be in Crossrail, Shared Rail, be in Shared Rail. Tilt we also have as well. So those are the big three in the residential market that you would need. And we do have those span letters, those span charts available in those engineering letters in the download section for each of those systems. So yeah, I think that's kind of the most important things to cover with that. If you are calling in from a Latin American country or Mexico or somewhere in that area, oftentimes these codes are more than accepted in those areas, so you can use the ASCE 7-16 codes as well for those projects and those span charts. If you have any questions about any technical questions regarding those things, please feel free to contact our office in Guadalajara. We have a full staff of technical engineers who can absolutely help you with any questions you have regarding that. And if you're in the US and you have questions, we also have technical engineers available here to you as well. You can feel free to call our office and help you out with any questions you might have regarding that.
Tyler, thank you. Speaking of actually contacting Everest, I had a question that somebody had asked us, is how do they get a hold of somebody in their territory? So let's say, for instance, if I'm an installer in the East Coast and I need to get in touch with a rep in the East Coast, let's go on our website right here. Let's drive over to how they can actually do that. Um, so if I was an installer in the East Coast and I wanted to get in touch with a sales rep, if you go over to the menu up on the top left, there's multiple ways you can get in touch with us. There's obviously the email directly to us, but there's the contact right there at the bottom. And you can find our distributors there. And if you go find sales rep, so if you're in the East Coast, you can, only 3 contacts down, you can get in touch with Al Harsh. He's actually, he's been with our team for over I think he's approaching 4 years now. He's highly knowledgeable in our equipment. He's been in the solar industry for just as long as everybody here. This is a very easy way with a map to kind of show where we have coverage and where you can speak with a rep who is engaged in your territory. If you're in the Midwest, you can reach out to Bradley Bland. If you scroll a little bit further down, if you're in California, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Nevada or Hawaii, you can get in touch with me. And of course, if you're in Texas and in the Southwest, Arizona, New Mexico, all the way out to the Louisianas, you can get in touch with Mark Jubenville. So if there are any questions about that, I've recently come across those, and we saw that pop up on the questions here of where do I find somebody in my territory. So hopefully that's supportive for you. We tried to make it, at least 2 clicks. You can find a person who serves your market. I understand that you guys are kind of not typing in too many questions here, but is there anything we can specifically answer for you? Since you are completely new to Everest, most of you said about 30% of you guys have installed Everest in the past. So is there anything you'd like to ask us that's new about our product?
While they're typing in that, if anything comes in, I'm going to go back to the home page.
Yeah.
And one place to find these little scrolling things is kind of like what's newest with us. There's BaseCamp as Nick mentioned, that's the design tool, and I saw that not many people have used it before. It is a free tool, and it does have the engineering built in, so you can click right there on the more and get that information and start an account and just look it up. Some of the new products that we have now are here in this K2 single tool system. You can click on that more section and it will give you a page and talk about all the new components and how we've improved our components, how we're moving to single tool. This is a good page to show all of that as well. We have wire management clips. Actually, that's a question that came up recently. Somebody asked if we have wire management solutions, and we do. And I actually have a great slide down here, if you can see that, that has all the wire management clips. So we have the TC wire management clip, which holds the wires into the rail channel. And as you transition out, it doesn't slip out. So the wire doesn't slip out. That TC stands for top channel wire management clip. It holds it into the channel. And then we have the Omega clip, which clips the leads on the side, and also a metal version, which is the hay clip, which clips onto the side of the rail, but from the top, and allows you to still wire manage from on the side. If you got larger wire bundles or more than one wire, you can bundle those up together there. But those are some of the options we have. Let's see, what else do we have? Are there any questions coming in again? No, all right. I'm assuming that we're doing such a good job that you guys have no questions. But these presentations are available on our website. So if you guys have questions on this, if you haven't, I know it was kind of it was like a 35 65 type thing, percentage of who's used us and who hasn't. So we do have the single tool system that's new. A lot of new products coming out right now. So it's an exciting time to try out the product, or if you're using us already, to try out some of the updated products and some of the new stuff. Let's see, I'm going to go over some more of the questions we have. We also have, actually, maybe we should go to the FAQ right on our website. So we have this FAQ section. We talked about ASA 716.
Yeah, and let's go to how you can get to this FAQ.
Yeah, how did I get here? Let's see.
It's through BaseCamp.
Yeah, so I'm going to start from scratch here. So again, if you click on these 3 lines, you get the drop down. BaseCamp is kind of the training portal. And then there's FAQs right there. And your question might already be answered in here. So corner struts is a very big question we get for D-Dome, which is our ballasted system. If you haven't installed this system, it's a nice product. It's a dual tilt. So instead of doing a south-facing system where you got inner row shading, the D-Dome allows you to install on both sides, and you kind of max out the roof. And you have less ballast because you have more weight with the modules, so you have less ballast blocks. And the corner strut is something we get asked a lot. So again, going down to downloads, D-Dome assembly instructions, that's kind of the big document that gives you all the information. And this will give you a step-by-step on how the components go together. So this is straight on our website, the torque specs, the components, the part numbers, all the product names so that you understand what's going on, bonding and grounding. And then let's get down to the corner strut that I mentioned, because we get that question a lot, is where do you install the corner struts? So here's the corner struts. So the corner struts connect, we have a peak and a base. And the corner strut is, it seems like you would want to put one on every connection, but you don't need to. It's literally only on the corners right there. So there it is right there. If you see it at the bottom of page 15, it's connecting the peak and the base. Again, you don't have to use that on every single connection between the base and the peak. It's just,
and that is why we call it the corner strut.
Exactly. So I believe when you go in the base tool, it gives you a little guideline on that at the very end of the report, and it shows you where you do need to put that, because that is a common question we get. And then anchoring down the systems, we have a couple different options for anchoring. If you need to anchor down the system, if you're like in LA County or something, sometimes you have to put down an anchor for seismic.
That's very standard. If you're installing D-Dome in the California market, you will have to be prepared to make sure that you reciprocally anchor into the building to meet seismic code. And that basically just means that if there is any kind of earthquake event, that the solar array will not fall into the building if there's any kind of failure of the structure. It just basically, the anchoring into the building with these into the structure is just to basically protect anybody inside. If the building does have any kind of failure, the equipment won't fall into the building. So that's commonly done with all of your utility or any capital equipment that's mounted on top of any kind of structure. They make sure that it's anchored in, so if there is an earthquake, it won't fall into the building. I saw a question pop up here. People wanted to know if they have a project, how do they get started with engaging with the team? And so I'll take that one on, and I'll just drive Johan where to go. So if you have a project that you want to send to us, we actually recently with the marketing team, we got a very simple way for you to go to a project, go to your project and go to project inquiry. And right here, you can actually fill in all the static information about yourself and the project. And there's definitely some required fields, but there's some stuff that you could basically, if you don't have the information right now, we can we can contact you and get it later. But when you actually do fill out this form, it'll come to our team, and we'll have all of the information about the structure, your company, who's the point of contact for the project. Obviously, if it's you putting the project information in here, we're going to make sure that we get in touch with you. And this is one of the easiest ways to send us a project. You can actually, even if you scroll down, Johan, you can actually attach files to this as well. So when you do that, you can send us the layout, tell us what time you're prescribing to install, what time that you're submitting for permit. This is one of the easiest ways to send us that information. It's right here through the site. You can, and if you're, let's say if you're in the East Coast, if you're in the Southeast in Florida somewhere, and you want to submit that project to us, this is the easiest way to do it. If you haven't engaged with a Everest Solar rep already, this is one of the fastest, easiest ways to do it. And it basically just gives us all of that information up front, so we don't have to have, those really long email threads about, details of the projects. You can just come forth and tell us what type of project it actually is.
Cool. Yeah, the website's gotten a lot more detailed, but this is going to be this little, I guess they call it the hamburger there on the far left corner. That's where you're going to find everything, and then you news and event base. I think BaseCamp is a very helpful thing, because if you go to overview, you can get led to a lot of questions that get answered. Like tips from BaseCamp is a good one, because once we see common questions or some kind of quick tips, we put these in videos, and we talk about our products and how to install them. So if you're new to the product, this is great to check out. There's really good videos on here. And we also have just all the videos where you have recorded webinars on here too. So when we come out with new products, we'll definitely introduce it here. But like I said, there's webinars as well that you might have missed. We usually record them and upload them here. I think there's actually a specific webinar one too. Yeah, all the webinars that are upcoming, and then webinars that are recorded that you might have missed. So we just did one on roofing basics, roof attachments, things like that, tile roofs. So we're trying to get more specific, because we get common questions on these things. So it'll build the content. I think most the questions, usually what we get is where to find some engineering documents. So I don't know, Tyler, if you want to elaborate on this, but I know there's a lot of good information. Actually, if you go to products, I think I saw this down here. I want to point this out. So Crossrail is our most popular. If you go down here and you go into downloads, there is the engineering letters, 710, 716. So this is if you're installing in specific areas and they require specific certification letters, you can get that all down here. You got Arizona, California, Colorado. All the ones that are requiring these are now uploaded here. So this is really good information. So we literally post the engineering letters with that stamp that you're looking for. So that's pretty important. We get asked that a lot. So I think we answered most of the questions that came in. I'm trying to think. Some people ask, what's the difference between dual rail and shared rail? So this is our shared rail system, which works with the same components. You just have an add-on. In fact, I have some slides here that show it. So this is a NAPSEP presentation I did at their digital conference. And here's the difference just an image showing. So dual rail is two rails for one row of modules, which is pretty standard, like you see on the left there, which is common on tile, comp, metal, any roof. I mean, obviously, if you're doing tile, it's going to for sure be dual rail. Whereas if it's a comp or metal roof, you can do dual or shared rail. And the idea behind this is that you have, so here's a dual rail example where you have 2 rails per row of module, and then here's the difference with shared rail, where you eliminate a rail length and you share a rail for 2 rows of modules, which significantly reduces roof penetrations, hardware, and time. So if done right, this can be a really helpful tool. And the only additional part to make it a shared rail is this add-on here. We get this question a lot. So you can still use the same mids and end clamps, but this add-on, starting to load here. Sorry, I got a little delay. The add-on, so same mid and end clamps, but the add-on allows it to act as a shelf. So and then the e-comp slider for comp shingle roofs is a north-south adjustable mount, just gives you some more play. But if you're doing a metal roof, you could still use the standard standing seam clamps, and it's the same as any standing seam metal roof. So we have a whole webinar on this. If you're interested, again, it's on the website. On the recorded webinars, you can go down and find that. I believe if you go to shared rail, which we're on now, there's videos, there's introducing the 10mm add-on, and then there's kind of a whole playlist in here of videos if you go down the rabbit hole, YouTube there for us. And then there's downloads again. And engineering letters, and then sometimes you get CAD drawings as well. I know we get questions on that. Actually, I get questions on that a lot. I don't know if you do too, Nick, but so if you go to downloads, I believe they're on there as well. Somewhere, I think it's on the actual specific product. Yeah, CAD files, there's one. So if you're building a system, that helps a lot. So any other questions that come to mind? Anybody? Or Tyler or Nick? Or Dakota, maybe on the marketing side? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask our attendees here, since our launch of the single tool system here, has anybody already installed that, or are you guys still installing our legacy product for who has already installed our product? I know that only 33% said they have. Has anybody installed our single tool system yet?
Yeah, so we'll give them a second to put that in the questions section. I just had, I guess, like just a couple quick, things to go over that I get asked a lot that I thought might be useful. So this question comes up pretty substantially, at least on the residential side. When I use a rail connector, how far apart can the support points or the L feet be? So it really depends on the rail connector you're using in the rail. So what Everest has done to try and differentiate ourselves in the market is use what's called a structural rail connector, or a structural splice, sometimes referred to as that. Or basically means that you can put the rail connector in the system independent of the roof attachments. So can't do that everywhere. Like in hurricane zones, you're not going to be able to do that. There are going to be some wind and snow load limitations on that product, which you can also find on the website in the engineering letters in the download section. So you will see it there. But here's a good picture of the rail connector. So we get that question. There are some of our competitors have some limitations with where that rail connector can go. If you're installing this thing in the Southwest, there really are no limitations on it, at least for the 44X, 48X, and 48XL rails. So wanted to answer that. Also, this rail connector does not use self-tapping screws. They're mechanically fastened T-bolts, which definitely has a benefit. You don't have to worry about the potential of a screw breaking or it not quite working as you're installing it, which does have its benefit there. And then the last question I kind of wanted to go over that get asked quite a bit, and we may have covered this already, but sorry if being repetitive here, but what is the maximum cantilever rail distance for the end of the array? We just basically use the industry standard on this, which is 1/3 of the span. So if you have a 6-foot span, that means you can cantilever that rail out 2 feet. Or if we're going to talk about it in meters, if you have a meter span, you can cantilever it out about 30 centimeters. So more or less, it's just 1/3 of that span. So get that question asked quite a bit. I just wanted to cover that for you guys so you have the answer to that. So I think that was some of the major FAQ or frequently asked questions, I should say, that I wanted to cover on the engineering side. But again, if you guys have anything else, please feel free to put it in the questions box.
I was looking at the questions that came in. I know we got some other ones. Let's see. Wire management went over. Assembly instructions we went over. Torque specs. The rail connector is a good one. So with the rail connector, I just wanted to add that if you guys are using systems that are out there already that are not Everest, I have seen some rail connectors where, well, they call them splices, right? We call them a rail connector. It is a splice generically, but it's a rail connector, and that's what we call it because you're literally extending the rail with minimum sacrifice on engineering. So the reason why it's stronger in our case is because we're using those T-bolts. It's the same T-bolts that attach the L-foot, but there are some systems that are limited and you have like a splice rule and you have to be back 1, sometimes 2 mounts from the edge of the array. So that can be problematic when you're installing a pretty big system and you get a long array and you've got rafters and certain layouts that don't allow you to, you have to shift the rail and cut it and you waste a lot of rail. So this literally extends the rail and holds the strength that it was designed for. So it eliminates a lot of concerns of where to place the connector, the rail connector splice. So so if you haven't used this system before, we do have sample kits, and you can always ask for one, and we can ship one out if it's something you want to check out. And again, we do get questions. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, and that contact page on our website, that's the best way to get in touch with a rep regarding a sample kit. So like I said, if you're in California and you want to get in touch with us and get a sample kit from your sales rep in your territory, reach out to them right there. You can literally click on their emails and it'll open up a brand new email in your email interface, and you'll be able to email myself, Brad, Al, Mark directly and say, I attended the webinar. I'd like to have a sample kit of your guys' Crossrail system. So lean on things like that so you can engage with us, so we can provide the service and support for you for your installs.
And if you want to go to Hawaii with Nick, that's his territory.
Exactly.
So,
I was
yeah.
going to say, it looks like we're pretty much out of time, so I want to be cognizant of everyone's time here. I don't know if there was any final questions you wanted to cover, Johan or Nick.
I was looking over the list. We went over a lot of the major ones. And Mexico did this as well. So if you are on the Spanish speaking side, Latin America or Mexico, we have an office in Guadalajara, and all the webinars that we do in English, a lot of them are done in Spanish as well, and vice versa. Obviously, sometimes it's dependent on product because different markets, they use a lot of our tilt-up system and our metal roof connections, and we have that here, but not as much. So definitely check BaseCamp, and you can go to webinars, and you'll notice that some of them are in Spanish, some are in English, and they did do this Q&A in Spanish as well, so it's very helpful. So we try to translate all of our videos into English and Spanish, but we've been doing a lot in Mexico, and I think we're doing a conference soon here in Puerto Rico too. So this is a great place to find what we're doing. So exhibits, obviously that's a little limited, but we do have, we are getting involved in some of these digital conferences now. And then come the new year, we're hoping that Intersolar will open back up. So you can see the products in action. And again, all the videos, we're uploading a ton of videos. So I don't see any questions coming in anymore. So I'm just going through where you can find some of this information, because we have a lot of new videos, and a lot of people are getting interested in our tilt-up system. We just did a full-on tilt-up video. There's also one in Spanish in here as well. So if you scroll through these pages, you'll start to find some of the older one. There's one on the rail connector specifically that we talked about, wire management, some of the single tool stuff. So yeah, it goes pretty deep. We have a lot of new stuff. And if you're wondering about the Everest Base, which is the design tool, I highly recommend trying that out. It's a really good tool if you're trying to design a system and figure out what's the best product to use, because it will allow you to design the system and figure out which roof attachments or which rail works best, or maybe it's shared rail, dual rail, or if you're doing a D-dome project, you can go to that. So this page here, I went under, sorry I did that kind of quick. I went under your project, which Nick mentioned for support on projects, but if you go to Base Online Design Tool, that goes to this page here, and you can get some of the basics and the links and get started there. So we're pretty much on the hour. So this is our first time doing this. If it's something you guys want us to keep doing, let us know. If you have questions after this that you didn't think of, you can always reach out to us. Like Nick said, all of our reps are here. And you can also contact our major offices as well. So we have all our reps listed here, and I think we have our generic phone line on here too. I think actually I noticed, Nick, in your projects, there was a really cool, yeah, there's the office line there. So that will go to our main office, and we'll link you up with whoever you need to talk to. So thanks, guys. We appreciate you getting on. I know everybody's been a little, screen fatigued, getting on these a lot. We appreciate you spending the time. Check out our website. Let us know what we can do better, or what's working for you, or if you have questions on specific products. So thanks, Nick, Tyler, and Dakota for being on, and you guys stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Be safe, be well. Bye.